Hey YouTube, this is Ariel. Today I want to show you guys how to assemble a miniature, specifically Malifaux's Miss Feasance alternative model. She's the alternative to Seamus. I got this while I was at Adepticon, Gen Con. For those of you who don't know what Malifaux is, you should stick around after the assembly video. I will explain to you what it is and why you guys should be playing. So to start, I will just do basic unboxing of the Miss Feasance. I'm not even sure if I'm saying her name right. Hopefully I'm not butchering it, because it sounds like she's a bird. I know there's a bird on her hat, and there's a bird on the box, but I don't know. So in the box you get a card, a sprue, and a base, which is what one would expect in their box. The 30mm base that comes with it, and it should say on the back it's 30mm base. So we're going to start with the bottom piece and the tombstone. You want to make sure that you have cement glue. Is that what it's called? The plastic glue. Right here I'm trying to shove these two pieces together, but it's not exactly working. Some of the tabs still left over on the mini, so, or on the piece I should say. So you want to make sure to cut all that away and don't gouge it like I just did. Be gentle. Or not. It's up to you, I guess. After you dry fit it, make sure that that's where it goes. Put some glue on it. Hold it together for a few seconds to make sure that it's set up. And then we're gonna grab the front and the back of Miss Feasance. So we're getting rid of those tabs, and there are mold lines going along the side, so you want to make sure that you get rid of those and sort of gently scrape them off. You don't want to lose too much detail, especially when it comes to the other side of this, which is on his face. So you don't want to like scratch his ear off or anything like that. But make sure you get it so it looks good. After that, I dry fitted it onto the tombstone just to make sure that she would fit. Then I realized she didn't have her legs, so I put her legs on, which was a mistake. Or the mistake was to not let it set all the way, because I kind of handled it without giving it a few minutes to set up properly. Here I had a bit of an issue with her, so I would see her all the way down on the tombstone, but there was a gap still, almost like there was a piece of plastic still in the way, because I took that off and it was still doing the same thing. And then there was another piece that I noticed that I thought could have been keeping it from closing all the way. Also, I apologize if like my nails look weird. I used to have acrylics and the technician messed my shit up. so gotta wait for them to grow out. I apologize if they're ugly to look at. I could get it to glue together without her being on the stone, so that's what I did here. I kept her off the stone and glued her that way, and then eventually set her on the stone. As you can see, like, her legs are a little loose because I was manhandling her. Those are the spots for the back of her head and the front, so those are the pieces that I'm going to grab next. Just cut those out and clean up little tabs. Also, you want to be careful with her hair because there's tabs in there, but there's also spots where it's a bow. So you don't want to cut her bows out of her hair. That would be bad. Then once it's all cleaned up, you glue it together. That's the back of her head. And then the front, which also has her face on it. Next, I decided to put on her hat. You want to be careful because there is a tab in the hat, so you don't want to cut all the way flush to the base of the hat. You want to leave that tab intact so that it sets into her head. You can clean up the tab so that there's no like stray pieces interfering with it going into her head, but don't cut it all the way off. So when you're fitting her hat on her head, make sure that it's facing the right direction. So she has a bow and a couple of notches that are over her face, as opposed to there's a notch that goes to the left of her where the bird will eventually attach to. So make sure that that is lined up correctly. And then once you see that it is, put glue and slap it down. So here I cut out the little bird that goes on her hat. You could see the indentation where he's going to go on her hat. There's a little tab on her hat, and he just slips right on there. It can be a little awkward to try and get it on there. It fell off a few times, but it does go on, I promise. So this was interesting. The saw goes in first, and it goes in backwards, which is weird. There's a tab left out of the saw for the bow to attach to. Which you would think that's like a hazard. Why would you, if you're carrying a saw attached to the sash of your dress, it seems dangerous. Or is it just me? Like, you might stab yourself. Anyways. So So I attached her arm next, which was a mistake. Leave that for like the second to last step because that was also a piece that doesn't attach to much, so it's more likely to break off as easily. Here I had to put her left leg back in because it broke off. And then I put glue on her feet, in the dress cavity under the head that she's pulling up from the grave. And then I glued the rest of it to the base. And that was pretty much it. She is done. She looks gorgeous. She looks alright. So this assembly probably took me about 40 minutes, but that was also first time doing like camera things, like kind of weird. The phone was like here, like if this is the table I'm working on, camera's like here, my face is here, trying to look under the camera because I can't see the mini, and the depth is different on the phone. Obviously it was a little awkward getting used to that, so I feel like that took away a lot of time to get used to, plus trying to refocus the camera every time I happen to look at the phone and see that it wasn't it was like blurry. That took some time, so altogether it probably took half hour. If you guys do end up assembling her, I highly suggest that you either put the legs on afterwards or wait, because I'm not very patient when I assemble. So as I put the legs on first and I'm grabbing her head and her legs that I just put on as a support to try and get all the other pieces on, I'm breaking off her left leg. Bruh. Which you guys probably saw in the video. After a point I just like took the thing off and just set it aside. It was like I put that back on after because it just keeps breaking. It's like moving weird. Assemble the body and the gravestone and stuff like that. I'll put them together yet. The little bird on her hat, save that for the very last step, like the very last step, because trying to grab her around her hat or whatever, and I was breaking that off as well because that's such a small piece. Even though there is like a little tab that goes on, holds the bird, it doesn't hold it that well, so I would save that for absolutely last. Another thing I would be aware of when you're putting this together is when you're sandwiching the body. So she comes in two pieces. She has like the back of her dress that's over the gravestone, and then the front of her dress, which is where her legs are coming out of. So I would put those, when you're putting that together, when you're like sandwiching it, when I was trying to force her back onto the gravestone to sit with, when I put her legs back in, her left leg back in, I mean, as I forced her down, she wouldn't really go all the way, so I had to really push her down hard. It's not that noticeable because the glue kind of melts everything and it pulled apart, but you can't really tell. The glue is like filled it, sort of, not really, but sort of. You can just go back over that with green stuff and that will fill right out. It might even fill with paint, to be honest. Her arm I almost broke off. That I would save that for like last, maybe second to last. So do her arm and then the bird on her hat, unless of course you guys are more patient than I am. That's also going to add to your time, so keep that in mind. Other than that, she wasn't that bad. It's just pretty straightforward. I did have like a little, really see the back of her, so I wasn't sure where her bow was going. So her bow actually goes on the back. So she has like a handsaw that she has in her back, right behind the pouch that she has on her right side, and that's sandwiched between the bow. And I didn't know that at first because I was like, oh, there's like a notch in the bow, so this has to set onto something, and I'm looking for like a tab poking, and the only tab, there's only an indentation where there's a piece of the saw goes in, and then what's sticking out is where the bow attaches. So it goes saw, and then the bow goes on top of the saw, like right next to it. Another thing, I don't know how, like, if you guys are super anal about, like, getting paint underneath her. So if you guys wanted to prime her first so you can get under her skirt with at least something, like a black, so you can't see, just gray, I guess. I don't know. Because that's going to be, like, stupid hard to prime. You won't get in there with, unless you're painting by hand. Even that might be a little hard. Y'all should be fine. You'll figure it out, I guess. Hopefully yours comes out a lot better than mine, because I almost cut some bows off. She has like crackhead hair with bows in it. Don't cut the bows out. So Malifaux is a skirmish level war game. So it's usually 2 players, but sometimes it could be more. I've actually never played. The playtime is usually 1 to 2 hours, and instead of using dice, you use a deck of cards to solve, like, resolve number things. Now, if you want to be a piece of me and just skip the assembly, you can play the other side. If you guys want me to make another video explaining what the other side is, or if you would like to see me play these games with a friend, I could do that as well. You have any suggestions for me as far as which models you would like to see me next? Comment section. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you subscribe, comment, like, subscribe. I think that's it. I think I'm done. Called shit.